She said she was too old, too broken, too forgotten by the world. But the billionaire standing in front of her had tears in his eyes and a truth he could no longer hide. He wasn't just fighting to love her, he was fighting for the woman who once saved his life without ever knowing the boy she healed grew into the man kneeling before her today. And when she whispered, "Why me?" he answered with the one secret capable of shattering everything she thought she knew about herself. "Because you were my first safe place, long before I ever knew your name. Now, let me take you back to where it all began." The silverware gleamed under the kitchen lights, but McKenna didn't see beauty anymore. She saw reflections of a life that had already decided her ending. 38 years old, a maid, a mother. A woman the world had learned to look past without ever really seeing. She polished another fork, her hands moving on autopilot, her mind somewhere far away where dreams still existed. But dreams weren't for women like her. Dreams were for people who hadn't been abandoned, overlooked, and forgotten. Behind her, someone was watching. If someone saved your life and never asked for anything back, would you remember them? Or would you forget like the rest of the world does? Hi, viewers. Kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. Eden Hale stood in the doorway, trembling. 25 years old, billionaire heir, a man who could buy entire cities without blinking. But right now, his hands shook like a child's. He had never forgotten. Not the voice that pulled him out of the darkest night of his childhood. Not the arms that held him when no one else would. Not the song she hummed while he cried behind a hospital building, convinced his world had ended. He'd spent 16 years searching for her, and now she stood 10 feet away, polishing silverware she could never afford, completely unaware that she was the reason he could breathe, the reason his nightmares had stopped, the reason he'd survived. "McKenna," he whispered. She turned, startled. "Sir, did something happen?" He stepped closer. Too close. Close enough to catch the scent of lavender and exhaustion. Close enough to see the lines around her eyes that told stories she'd never share. "Why does it feel like I've known you my whole life?" Her brow furrowed. "I don't understand." His voice cracked. "Something did happen. And you were there." Confusion rippled across her face. "Sir, I think you're mistaken. You saved me when I was a boy." The words hung in the air like smoke. McKenna's breath caught. Her fingers tightened around the fork she was holding. "That's not possible," she whispered. Eden's eyes burned with something raw and desperate. "You hummed a lullaby, a Swahili lullaby, the same one you hummed in this kitchen 3 days ago." Her heart slammed against her ribs. No, that couldn't be him. That broken child crying in the cold, that small voice begging her not to leave. That couldn't be the man standing in front of her now. "I've been looking for you ever since," Eden said, his voice barely holding together. McKenna stepped back, her spine hitting the counter. "Sir, please." "You're confused." "I'm not confused." He moved closer, his eyes glistening. "You held me when I thought the world had ended. You stayed when everyone else walked away. You made me feel safe for the first time in my life." Her knees weakened. The silverware slipped from her fingers. It crashed to the floor, the sound echoing through the mansion like a gunshot. And then Eden said the words that shattered everything she thought she understood about her invisible, forgettable life. "I think I'm falling in love with you." McKenna stumbled backward, her hand gripping the counter for balance. "No, that's impossible." Eden stepped forward, tears sliding down his face. "What if it's the truth?" McKenna wanted to run from the kitchen, run from his voice, run from the truth swelling in his eyes like a flood she couldn't stop. A billionaire couldn't love her. A younger man couldn't love her. A woman with scars, debt, and 2 children couldn't possibly be the center of his world. She steadied herself against the counter, her breath shallow and uneven. "Mr. Hale, you must be mistaken." "I'm not," he cut in gently. He leaned against the table like the memories were too heavy for his body. His voice softened to a tone she'd never heard from him before. When I was 9, I hid behind a hospital building. I thought my life was over. McKenna's chest tightened. And then, Eden continued, his breath trembling, a woman found me. She wrapped me in her jacket. She held me until I could breathe again. Her heart beat painfully. That night, he said, someone hummed a lullaby to me. A Swahili lullaby. The air left her lungs. She remembered that night. She had tried to forget. The small boy crying like the world had abandoned him. The helplessness she felt when she couldn't stop his pain. The way he clung to her like she was the only safe person left. But how could that little boy be Eden Hale? Her voice came out cracked. That child, he disappeared. I never knew what happened. I never saw him again. Eden nodded, eyes soft. You saved my life, and I think part of me has been searching for you ever since. McKenna shook her head violently. You can't love me. I'm too old. Don't finish that sentence, he warned gently. But McKenna stepped back. Sir, I'm a maid. You were my first safe place. I'm a broken woman. You're the only person who ever held me when nobody else would. McKenna bit her lip, trembling. You don't understand. I can't be what you need. His voice deepened. What if you already are? She stared at him, tears pooling in her eyes. This man, this young, powerful, beautiful man, was looking at her like she was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life. But she was nothing. Nobody. A shadow people walked past without a second glance. Eden, she whispered, using his first name for the first time. I'm 13 years older than you. He stepped closer. I don't care. The world will tear us apart. Let it try. I have 2 children. Then I'll love them too. Her breath hitched. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. His voice was steady now, certain. You think I haven't thought about this every single day since I recognized your voice? You think I haven't fought with myself wondering if I was crazy for feeling this way? McKenna's tears spilled over. This can't be real. It is real. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his hand gently touched hers. You saved me once without asking for anything in return. Let me spend the rest of my life proving you didn't save the wrong person. McKenna sobbed quietly, her walls crumbling. And then, just as she opened her mouth to speak, a loud knock echoed from the mansion entrance. Eden's entire body went rigid. His hand pulled away from hers, his face draining of color. That's my father, he whispered, panic flashing in his eyes. He can't see us like this. Jonathan Hale walked into the mansion like a man entering his territory, not his home. He was known for 2 things, destroying competitors and destroying his son's confidence. McKenna lowered her eyes out of instinct. She could feel the weight of Jonathan's presence even before he reached the kitchen doorway. Eden, Jonathan said sharply, we need to talk, now. Eden stiffened. McKenna immediately stepped aside, retreating like a shadow. Jonathan's eyes flicked toward her, and in a single glance she felt judged, dismissed, and erased. Why is she here? Jonathan snapped. She works here, Eden answered too quickly. Jonathan scoffed. I thought we were done hiring charity cases. McKenna's stomach twisted. Eden's jaw clenched. Don't talk about her like that. Jonathan blinked in surprise, then narrowed his eyes at his son. What is going on here? Eden didn't answer. Jonathan stepped close, lowering his voice. Don't forget who you are. You're a Hale. You don't get involved with women who clean your floors. McKenna's heart thudded. Eden's eyes burned with something fierce and dangerous. I decide who I care about, he said quietly. Jonathan's jaw tightened. Not if you want to remain my heir. Makina felt the air leave her lungs. Jonathan turned to her like she was a problem he needed removed. You. What's your name? Makina swallowed. Makina, sir. Quit, he said coldly. Collect your pay and leave. I won't have this kind of distraction in my son's home. Makina's world shattered. How many people have you judged before knowing their story, before knowing they were someone's answered prayer? Eden stepped forward immediately. She's not going anywhere, Jonathan glared. You choose her, or your inheritance. Makina's breath stopped. This was it. The moment Eden would come to his senses. The moment he'd realize she wasn't worth the fight. The moment he'd see what everyone else saw when they looked at her. Nothing. But Eden's voice came out strong, almost reckless. I choose her. Jonathan froze. Makina gasped. The mansion fell silent. Jonathan's face twisted into something dark and cruel. You're throwing away billions. For what? A maid? A woman old enough to finish that sentence, Eden warned, his voice low and deadly. And I walk out of this house tonight. Jonathan's nostrils flared. You think you can survive without me? Without the Hale name? Without everything I've built? Eden stepped closer to Makina, his hand brushing hers. I survived the worst night of my life without you. I'll survive this too. Jonathan's eyes narrowed into something deadly. Then you're no longer my son. Jonathan walked out of the kitchen with the same authority he used to close billion-dollar deals. His footsteps echoed through the mansion like thunder. Makina stood frozen, unable to breathe. You didn't have to say that, she whispered. Eden turned to her, eyes full of pain and certainty. I meant it. No, Eden, listen to me. Your inheritance doesn't matter. It does matter, she insisted. Your entire life, everything you've built, was built for the wrong reasons, he said quietly. I built it trying to prove myself to someone who never loved me. Makina shook her head. This is madness. I'm just a maid. You're the woman who saved me before I had anything. The woman who taught me the first kindness I ever knew. Makina's chest tightened. Her legs felt weak. She needed air. Eden, I can't destroy your family. They destroyed themselves a long time ago. Makina flinched at the pain in his voice. He reached out for her hand, but she pulled back. I shouldn't be the reason you lose everything. You're the reason I found anything worth having. Her eyes filled with tears she didn't want him to see. You're too young, she whispered. I'm older, tired, and full of scars. I'm not afraid of your scars. You should be. Why? Makina's voice broke. Because everyone who loves me ends up leaving. Eden's eyes softened. I'm not leaving. Before she could respond, Jonathan's voice boomed from the hallway. Eden, pack your things. You have until midnight. You step out of this house and you're stepping out of the Hale Empire for good. Makina's hands shook. Eden inhaled slowly, then whispered, Then I guess tonight is the night I walk out. Makina's heart cracked open. But the moment she tried to speak, something unexpected happened. Jonathan stepped back into the kitchen doorway holding a sealed envelope. This came today, he said coldly. It changes everything. Eden frowned. Makina blinked in confusion. Jonathan tossed the envelope onto the counter. It's about her. Makina's blood froze. Eden stared at the envelope, then at his father. What are you talking about? Jonathan smirked. Eden, she's been lying to you from the start. The envelope sat on the kitchen counter like a live bomb. Makina stared at it, afraid to touch it, afraid to breathe near it. Jonathan crossed his arms, enjoying the tension he created. Go on, he said. Open it. Eden didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on Makina's trembling hands. Makina, he whispered, do you know what's inside? She shook her head. I swear. I don't. Jonathan scoffed. Of course she does. Women like her always have secrets. Eden shot him a glare, but Jonathan wasn't done. You want to throw away your empire for this woman? Then you should at least know who she truly is. McKenna felt the room shrinking around her. Stop, she whispered. Please. But Jonathan slid the envelope toward Eden. Read it, son. Or continue living in your little fantasy. Eden hesitated, then tore the envelope open. A single document slipped out. McKenna's breath hitched. Eden scanned the page, and his face drained of color. What is this? He whispered. Jonathan smirked. The truth. McKenna's hands shook uncontrollably. Eden lifted the paper with trembling fingers. McKenna? Where were you the night my mother died? McKenna froze. Her throat closed. I don't understand. Eden stepped closer, eyes dark with confusion and hurt. This report says, you weren't just a hospital worker that night. Jonathan interrupted with a cold smile. It says she was the last person in the room with your mother before she died. McKenna's heart stopped. Eden staggered back like he'd been punched. McKenna's voice cracked. Eden, listen to me. Jonathan folded his arms smugly. Go ahead. Tell him why a simple maid was inside the private wing on the night his mother lost her life. McKenna felt her world collapsing. Eden whispered, voice breaking. McKenna, what did you do that night? She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. She wanted to disappear into the floor and never come back. But she owed him the truth. Your mother begged me not to leave. Silence fell so heavy it felt like the walls were leaning in to listen. McKenna could barely feel her legs. Her hands trembled so violently she had to grip the edge of the counter just to stay upright. Eden stared at her like he didn't recognize the woman in front of him anymore. You were with my mother? His voice was soft. Too soft. The kind of softness that hides a storm. McKenna nodded once, slowly, painfully. I was a junior caregiver at the hospital. I wasn't assigned to her, but that night her nurse was overwhelmed. They asked me to check on her. When I walked in, she was crying. She was scared. Jonathan snorted in disgust, but Eden didn't take his eyes off her. McKenna swallowed hard. She held my wrist and begged me not to leave her alone. I stayed because no one should die scared. Eden's breath hitched, remembering his own terror that night, remembering running out into the cold because nobody stayed with him. Why didn't you tell me? He whispered. Tears blurred McKenna's vision. Because I didn't know you were the boy I helped that same night. I didn't know who you were back then. And when I recognized your mother's name in your home, it was too late. I didn't want to reopen old wounds. Jonathan stepped forward, voice sharp as a blade. Or maybe she stayed because your mother was wealthy. Maybe she wanted something from her. McKenna flinched as if struck. Eden's jaw clenched. Don't talk about her like that. Jonathan raised a brow. I'm telling the truth. Sometimes the people who carry the heaviest burdens are the ones we accuse first. Don't let this be one of those stories you scroll past. McKenna's voice cracked as she whispered, I stayed with your mother because she reminded me of myself, abandoned and afraid. Eden's breath trembled. Jonathan slammed a hand on the counter. She was the last person with your mother. Think about that. McKenna took a step forward. Your mother made me promise something before she died, Eden. His eyes snapped to hers. What promise? McKenna closed her eyes. That I would find you someday and tell you the words she couldn't say herself. Eden leaned forward, heart pounding. What did she want you to tell me? McKenna whispered. She said, tell him I'm sorry. Eden's world tilted. His stomach dropped. His chest tightened so sharply he struggled to breathe. Sorry, he whispered. My mother apologized? Makina wiped her eyes. She said it with her last bit of strength. She squeezed my wrist so hard I can still remember the pressure. She said, "Tell Eden I'm sorry for not protecting him from his father." Jonathan stiffened. His eyes flickered, not with guilt, but with fury. That woman was delusional, Jonathan snapped. She never believed in structure. That was her problem. Makina didn't back down. She said you crushed him, that you broke him long before life ever could. Eden's hands clenched. Jonathan lunged forward. Enough. Makina stepped back, but her voice remained steady. She begged me to find her son someday, to hold him the way she couldn't, to remind him he wasn't weak. Eden stared at her, stunned. Makina's next words nearly floored him. And Eden, I did find you. Not knowing who you were, not knowing I was fulfilling her last wish. But the moment I saw you struggle to breathe that night behind the hospital, Eden's eyes widened. Makina finished. I realized she was right. You were already hurting long before she passed. Jonathan snapped. This is pathetic. Eden, she's manipulating you with a fairy tale. Makina shook her head, tears rolling down her cheeks. I never meant for you to know. I only stayed quiet because I thought your father would ruin me if he knew I was there. Jonathan leaned in, voice cold as winter. He still can. Makina froze, but Eden stepped between them, fury in his eyes. You touch her, you lose me forever. Jonathan glared. Then you've already chosen your downfall. Eden turned to Makina. His voice shook. You said my mother gave you more than one message. Makina nodded slowly. She did. Jonathan scoffed. Here comes the fantasy. Makina lifted her chin, eyes locked on Eden's. She told me a secret about you, something she never told anyone else. Eden's pulse raced. What secret? Makina whispered. She said, you were never meant to be a Hale. Jonathan exploded. That's enough. This woman is lying. But Eden couldn't hear anything except the pounding of his own heartbeat. Makina, he whispered. What do you mean I wasn't meant to be a Hale? Makina wiped her eyes with a trembling hand. Your mother said those words while crying. She was terrified. She said she made a mistake staying with a man who crushed her spirit, and she was scared he'd do the same to you. Jonathan pointed a shaking finger at Makina. She is poisoning your mind. Shut up, Eden growled. Makina continued, voice barely above a whisper. Your mother said you were born from her love, not his control. She said she raised you with her heart, but the world would raise you with your father's rules, and she was afraid of that. Jonathan's nostrils flared. She's lying. I will not let you destroy my wife's memory with... Makina cut him off gently. She said you were too kind, too soft-hearted, too pure for the Hale Empire, and she knew he'd call it weakness. Eden swallowed hard. Weakness. The word that haunted him his entire life. Jonathan stepped forward. Eden, do not listen to this woman. But Eden stepped back from him. Every memory of his father telling him men don't cry. Every lecture about power, every insult, every cold night alone. It all came roaring back. Makina placed a hand over her heart. She said if you ever found someone who gave you the warmth she couldn't anymore, someone who reminded you of softness, you should hold on to her. Eden froze. Makina breathed in shakily. She said, that woman would be your real home. Jonathan slammed his fist on the table. Enough. Eden, get away from her now. Makina's tears fell freely. She begged me to make sure you didn't turn into him. Eden's hands shook. I'm not him, he whispered. Jonathan shouted, you will be nothing without my name. Eden turned slowly, cold, empty, done. I'd rather be nothing than be your son. Makina gasped. Jonathan's face twisted. You think I won't ruin her for this? Eden stepped forward, eyes burning. Touch her, and I swear, A loud crash echoed upstairs. The three of them froze. Eden whispered, "Makina, where are your children?" Makina's heart stopped. Her children, her babies. She dropped everything and sprinted toward the stairs, with Eden right behind her. Jonathan followed, more out of curiosity than concern. The second floor was dim, but Makina heard it clearly. Soft sobbing from down the hall. "Zuri?" Makina called, voice trembling. "Milo?" Her daughter Zuri, 7, peeked out of the guest room with tears streaming down her cheeks. Mama, I'm scared." Makina rushed forward and fell to her knees, pulling her daughter into her arms. "It's okay, sweet girl. I'm here." Eden stepped inside, gently checking the room. It looked like her son Milo, 10, had knocked over a lamp while trying to comfort his sister. Milo stood in the corner, fists clenched, breathing fast, the way Eden used to breathe when fear ate him alive as a child. Eden knelt. "Hey, buddy, it's okay. You're safe." Milo hesitated, recognizing him from the house tours Makina allowed them to see sometimes. Zuri whispered, still crying. Grandpa Man was yelling downstairs. It was scary. Jonathan appeared in the doorway. His cold gaze landed on the children with irritation, not empathy. "These kids shouldn't be here," he snapped. Zuri flinched. Milo stepped in front of his sister protectively. Makina stood up, fury replacing fear. "They have the right to be safe in a house where their mother works." Jonathan scoffed. "A house where their mother works is not their home." Eden turned, voice low. "They're my responsibility too." Jonathan's eyebrows shot up. "Oh? A billionaire playing house with a maid and her orphans? Is that what this is?" Milo's fist tightened. "We're not orphans," he growled. "We have a mom." Jonathan rolled his eyes. "Barely," Makina gasped. "That's enough." Jonathan smirked. "They will never be Hales." Eden stepped forward. "Good, because I don't want to be a Hale anymore." Jonathan froze. Makina stared. Milo whispered, "What does that mean?" Eden looked at Makina, then at the children. "It means I choose you." Makina's breath caught in her throat. Her children stared in confusion. Jonathan's voice dropped to a deadly calm. "You're making a mistake." But Eden turned away from him. "Milo, Zuri," he said softly, "I promise you something. You will never be alone. Not again." Zuri looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Even when people are yelling?" "Especially then." Eden reached out hesitantly. "Is it okay if I stay with you tonight? Just until you feel safe?" Children don't ask to be in broken situations. They just need one person to stay. "Are you that person in someone's life?" Milo looked at his sister, then at Makina. Then he nodded. Jonathan's rage exploded. "You think you're going to replace me with them?" he roared. Milo flinched again. Makina pulled her kids closer. Eden turned slowly, eyes dark. "I don't need to replace you." He stepped forward. "I just need to protect them." Jonathan's face turned red. He pointed at Makina with venom. "She's using you, using your trauma, using your loneliness, and you're falling for it like a fool." Makina shook her head, tears in her eyes. "I never asked him for anything," Jonathan shouted. "You won't have anything when I'm done with you." Makina paled. Eden stepped in front of her. "Touch her or these kids," he said quietly, "and I will expose what Mom told her." Jonathan froze. For the first time, fear flashed across his face. "What exactly did she say?" he asked tightly. Eden didn't answer. Makina squeezed her children, but Jonathan's next words sliced the air like a knife. "Does he know," Jonathan hissed, "that you were the one who closed her eyes after she died?" The room spun. Makina nearly dropped to her knees. Eden's head snapped toward her. You were the last person to see her alive? Makina's hands trembled, her lips quivered, her eyes filled before she could stop them. "I didn't mean for you to find out like this," she whispered. Jonathan's smug smile widened. "Oh, so it's true? Lovely. This gets better." Eden swallowed hard, throat tightening. "Makina, why didn't you tell me?" Her eyes brimmed with pain. "Because your mother asked me not to." Eden staggered back. "What?" Makina wiped her face, voice breaking. "She said she didn't want you to see her suffer. She didn't want your last memory to be of her in pain. She made me promise to keep you away from that room." Eden's breath faltered. "I ran out of the hospital," he whispered. "I was outside crying when you found me." Makina nodded. "Yes. I came outside after she passed. I saw you on the ground. I didn't want to interrupt your father, so I stayed with you. I held you. I hummed the lullaby because that's what my own mother used to do when I cried." Jonathan laughed. "What a touching story. Unfortunately, it still makes her the last person with your mother. Suspicious, isn't it?" Makina flinched. Eden glared at his father. "You're not implying she—" Jonathan raised a brow. "Can you prove she didn't?" Makina gasped. "How dare you?" Jonathan cut in coldly. "People do strange things when they're desperate, especially women like her." Makina stepped back as if struck. Milo grabbed her hand. Zuri hid behind her skirt. Eden turned to Makina, voice cracking. "I need you to tell me exactly what happened, every detail, because I want to trust you, I do, but this is too much all at once." Makina's heart shattered. He wasn't accusing her. He was drowning. "Eden," she whispered. He stepped closer, desperate. "Please, tell me everything." Makina opened her mouth, but at that moment a phone rang downstairs. Jonathan pulled it from his pocket, checked the caller ID, and smirked. "Oh, Eden, you're going to want to hear this." Eden's blood ran cold. Jonathan held out the phone. "It's the hospital. They finally returned my call." Makina froze. Jonathan added with a chilling smile. "They say they have new information about your mother's final minutes." Eden whispered, "What? Did they find?" The phone kept ringing, slicing through the silence like a blade. Makina held her children close, her pulse racing so hard she could feel it in her throat. Eden stared at Jonathan's hand, frozen between fear and fury. Jonathan finally thrust the phone toward him. "Answer it." Eden hesitated, then snatched the phone with shaking fingers. "Hello? This is Eden Hale." The room fell, silent. Makina could hear only the pounding of her heart, her daughter's small breaths, and the faint muffled voice on the other end of the line. Eden listened carefully, eyes narrowing. His face went pale, then confused, then something darker. "Yes," he said quietly. "I remember her nurse." A pause. "She said what?" Another pause. "And the caregiver, the woman who stayed with her, what did she say happened?" Makina squeezed Zuri's hand, panic building in her chest. Eden swallowed hard. "I understand. Thank you." He lowered the phone slowly. Jonathan stepped forward. "Well, what did they say?" Eden looked at Makina with a tremble in his voice. "They confirmed my mother died peacefully. No struggle. No foul play." Makina's knees nearly gave out as relief washed over her, but then Eden continued, voice cracking. "They said the young caregiver who stayed with her cried while holding her hand, cried like she had lost her own family." Makina covered her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. Eden whispered, "They said she stayed long after the nurses left because she refused to let her die alone." Jonathan stiffened. Eden turned to him, anger rising. "So she wasn't suspicious. She wasn't harmful. She was the only person in that room who cared." Makina sobbed into her hands. Jonathan scoffed. They're covering themselves. That hospital is— No, Eden snapped. They said she left a note in the patient file. McKenna froze. Jonathan frowned. A note? Eden nodded slowly. A message she hoped I'd read someday. McKenna stared at him, tears streaming. Eden's voice shook. They said the caregiver wrote, "He's a good boy. He feels everything too deeply. Please let him rest tonight." McKenna broke into silent sobs, but Jonathan wasn't done. He pointed at her with venom. Touching. Except that still doesn't explain why she held back the truth about being there. McKenna stiffened. Eden stepped toward her. McKenna, what aren't you telling me? McKenna trembled. There was something she never told the hospital, never told anyone, something she hoped to take to her grave. She looked at Eden with eyes full of fear. Eden, your mother didn't just cry that night. His breath caught. She begged me to protect you. Eden staggered. Jonathan narrowed his eyes. McKenna whispered, "She made me promise to hide one more secret from you, a secret I've kept for 16 years. The air thickened. Jonathan leaned forward, watching McKenna like a predator cornering prey. A secret? He hissed. Go on, tell him your next lie. McKenna shook her head. I'm not lying. I wish I were. Eden stepped closer, his voice barely audible. What did she make you promise? McKenna wiped her face, trying to hold herself together. Your mother knew she didn't have long. She said she needed someone, anyone, to tell you something she couldn't bring herself to say in front of your father. Jonathan's jaw ticked. Eden's eyes darkened. McKenna breathed shakily. She said she wasn't strong enough, that life had broken her more than she admitted, and she thought you would be safer if you believed she went peacefully. Eden frowned. I don't understand. McKenna lifted trembling hands to her chest. Your mother didn't die from the cancer alone. Jonathan's head snapped around. What? McKenna's voice cracked. She died from exhaustion, stress, and a heart weakened by fear. Fear of him. She pointed at Jonathan. Jonathan roared, You're lying! McKenna shook her head violently. She said she stayed in that marriage for you, but it was killing her, and she begged me not to tell you how terrified she'd been. Eden's face turned white. She told me, Don't let my son turn into his father. Jonathan lunged forward. You manipulative! Eden shouted. Stop! The entire room froze. Milo and Zuri clung to their mother. McKenna whispered through tears. She thought she failed you. She thought she failed herself. That's why she apologized. That's why she cried. Eden felt the world crumble under him. For years he thought his mother died peacefully. For years he thought he was too weak to save her. For years he blamed himself. McKenna stepped closer. Eden, she didn't want you to carry her pain. She wanted you to break the cycle. Jonathan scoffed. This is pathetic. You expect him to believe— McKenna cut him off. She gave me something to pass on to him. Eden's breath hitched. What did she give you? McKenna reached into her pocket. A tiny gold locket. Old, worn, familiar. Eden's heart stopped. My mother's locket, he whispered. McKenna nodded. She pressed it into my hand and said, Give this to him when he meets someone who makes him feel safe. Eden stared at her in shock. McKenna looked away, voice breaking. I never imagined that person would be me. Some people break silently. You walk past them every day and never know. If this opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Jonathan exploded. This is ridiculous. But McKenna wasn't finished. There's something inside the locket your mother wanted you to see. Eden's fingers trembled as he reached for it. He opened the locket slowly and froze. Inside was a folded piece of paper. Jonathan lunged forward. Don't read that! But Eden pulled the paper out. His eyes widened, his lips parted, his breath disappeared. McKenna whispered, terrified. Eden, what does it say? Eden unfolded the tiny paper with trembling fingers. The room felt suspended in time. McKenna watched his eyes move across the page and saw fear, shock, disbelief, and heartbreak ripple through him all at once. Jonathan stepped forward. "Eden, listen to me." "No," Eden snapped, voice raw. He cleared his throat and read aloud, voice cracking with every word. "My son, if you are reading this, it means you found someone who reminds you of me. Someone gentle. Someone warm. Someone who makes you feel safe. Hold on to her. She is not your weakness. She is your protection." McKenna's breath caught. Eden kept reading, slow, shaky, broken. "Do not become the man your father wants you to be. Become the man your heart tells you to be." Jonathan growled. "This is manipulation." Eden ignored him and finished the note. "And when you find her, forgive me for not being strong enough to stay." The room fell silent. McKenna wept. Eden stared at the paper as if it held every answer he'd been begging for. Jonathan looked like the world had tilted under him. Eden whispered, "She knew. She knew I'd find someone like you." His voice cracked again. "She knew I needed someone to save me from him." Jonathan stepped forward, furious and panicked. "Eden. She wrote that while she was dying. She wasn't in her right mind." Eden shook with anger. "Stop insulting her to save yourself." McKenna covered her mouth. Eden turned to her, tears in his eyes. "She was talking about you, McKenna. You're the woman who made me feel safe." McKenna sobbed harder. "I never wanted to take her place. I never wanted to be involved in your pain. I was just trying to survive." Eden stepped closer. "You became everything without trying." Jonathan suddenly smirked. "Touching. But it won't matter when the world finds out that you fired half the staff, emptied your accounts, and threw away the Hale Empire for, what? A maid? A single mother? Someone who has nothing to offer you?" McKenna froze. Eden clenched his fists. Jonathan leaned in, voice poisonous. "And if you think she's being honest, ask her why she really needed this job." McKenna paled. Eden snapped his head toward her. "What is he talking about?" McKenna shook her head. "Eden, please," Jonathan smirked. "Tell him, McKenna. Tell him the one detail you've been hiding since the day you walked into this house." McKenna's heart shattered. Jonathan whispered, "Tell him who you were running from." McKenna felt her entire body go numb. Her breath came short and shallow. Her children clung to her skirt like they sensed a storm she could no longer hide. Eden stared at her, eyes wide with fear and confusion. "Running from?" he echoed softly. McKenna swallowed hard. "Please. Not in front of my kids." Jonathan scoffed. "There it is. The truth." McKenna shook her head. "No, you don't know the truth." Jonathan smirked. "I know enough. Your background check wasn't clean." Eden stiffened. "What?" McKenna felt her knees weakening. Jonathan folded his arms dramatically. "Your dear McKenna didn't just come here looking for a job. She came here hiding from a man." Milo gasped. Zuri cried into McKenna's leg. McKenna whispered, "Please stop." Eden stepped forward, heart pounding. "McKenna, who were you running from?" She closed her eyes. "My husband." Eden froze. Jonathan smirked triumphantly. McKenna shook her head fast, panicked. "No, you don't understand. I wasn't running from a marriage. I was running from a man who tried to destroy me." Eden's eyes darkened. "Explain." McKenna took a breath that shook violently. "My ex-husband wasn't just abusive. He was dangerous. He was obsessive. When I finally found the courage to leave, he threatened to take the kids. Threatened to ruin my life. He said no man would ever want a broken woman like me." Eden listened, heart twisting. "I went to the police, but he had connections. He was charming in public, a monster in private." Jonathan rolled his eyes. "This is pathetic," McKenna snapped. One night, he chased me through the street. I grabbed my kids and ran. We stayed in shelters, then with strangers, then anywhere we could hide. Her voice cracked. I applied here because I knew this mansion had security, cameras, gates, guards. I thought my children and I could finally breathe. Eden stepped closer, voice breaking. Why didn't you tell me? McKenna cried softly. Because I didn't want to bring danger into your life. Because I knew your father would fire me if he found out I wasn't clean. Because I didn't want you to see me as damaged. Eden reached out, gripping her shaking hands. You're not damaged. You're the bravest person I've ever known. Jonathan snorted. How touching. But maybe you should tell him the rest. McKenna stiffened. The rest? Eden whispered. Jonathan smirked. Tell him what your husband wants now. McKenna's entire body trembled. Jonathan leaned in and whispered, He's coming here. The words slammed into McKenna like a truck. Her grip on Milo and Zuri tightened. Eden froze, shock flickering into anger. Coming here? Eden repeated, voice low and dangerous. Jonathan shrugged casually. I got a call earlier. A man asking if a woman named McKenna worked here. Said he was her husband. McKenna stopped breathing. No, he can't have found me. I changed numbers. I changed everything. Jonathan cut her off with a smile. Apparently, not well enough. McKenna felt her world collapse. Memories she worked years to bury came flooding back. Her husband's rage, his fists, his threats whispered into her ear while her children cried in the next room. Eden saw the terror in her eyes and stepped closer, voice steady. McKenna, you're safe now. She shook her head violently. You don't know him. He doesn't give up. He doesn't stop. He said he would never let me go. Jonathan, enjoying every moment, added, They said he's only an hour away. McKenna felt her knees buckle. Milo whispered, Mama, is he going to take us? McKenna pulled him close. No, baby. No one is taking you. Eden stepped forward with fire in his eyes. He won't touch you. I'll make sure. Jonathan interrupted. Oh, and one more detail. He leaned back against the doorframe. He knows where you live now. I might have confirmed it. McKenna gasped, horror rippling through her body. Eden snapped. What did you do? Jonathan shrugged. She was destroying your life. I thought her husband could motivate her to leave. McKenna shook uncontrollably. Eden's chest rose and fell with rage. You put her kids in danger, he whispered. You put her in danger. Jonathan rolled his eyes. You're young. You'll get over it. Eden took a step closer, dangerously. You think this makes me choose you? All this does is prove exactly what Mom tried to tell me. Jonathan stiffened. What's that supposed to mean? Eden stepped directly in front of him, eyes blazing. She died scared of you. Jonathan's expression flickered. Shock, then fury. McKenna felt a shift in the room, something coming undone inside Eden, something he could never repair. Eden turned to McKenna. We're leaving. Jonathan barked a laugh. Where? The streets? Her husband will find her before sunrise. Eden glared. I don't care. She's safer anywhere than under this roof. McKenna clutched her children. Jonathan smirked. You think you're saving her? Her husband is almost here? Eden grabbed McKenna's hand. Then we leave now. If you've ever felt trapped, you know this fear. Don't let her story go unheard. But Jonathan called after them. You can't outrun a man like that. He's already at the gate. McKenna's blood ran cold. A loud bang echoed from outside the mansion, followed by a voice screaming her name. McKenna! The bang echoed through the hallways, shaking the mansion like thunder. McKenna's heart dropped into her stomach. That voice, that terrible, familiar voice. McKenna! Open this gate! Zuri burst into tears. Milo stepped in front of her like a tiny soldier, his small fists clenched even as they trembled. McKenna pulled her children to her chest. No, this can't be happening here. Not again. Eden's jaw tightened. He's not getting inside. But Jonathan walked toward the front door with a twisted smile. Oh, he's already inside the property. Security let him through. Eden spun around. You let him in? Jonathan shrugged. A husband simply wanting his wife back. Who am I to deny a man his family? McKenna shook her head desperately. He's not my family. He's my nightmare. Eden grabbed her shoulders gently but firmly. We need to move. Now. McKenna could barely breathe. He's dangerous, Eden. He won't care that you're rich. He won't care that this is your home. He'll tear through everything until he gets what he wants. Eden stepped in front of her and the kids. Then he'll have to go through me. Another bang. Louder this time. McKenna, you think you can hide from me? Jonathan leaned on the railing above the foyer. You kept me out of your life, Eden. But now you'll finally understand what it feels like to lose control. Eden didn't even look at him. He was already moving McKenna and her children toward the back staircase. But before they could take more than 3 steps, the front door rattled violently, and then it burst open. McKenna screamed. Her ex-husband stormed inside, soaked in rain, eyes wild, chest heaving. I told you, he snarled, pointing at her with shaking hands. I told you I would find you. McKenna stumbled back into Eden. Zuri wailed. Milo stood frozen. Eden positioned himself between them. Touch her, he growled, and I swear you won't walk out of here. McKenna's ex laughed, a cold, empty sound. You think you can save her? You don't know what she really is. Eden's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? McKenna's ex smirked darkly. Oh, she didn't tell you? She didn't tell you what she took from me? McKenna's blood ran cold. Her ex-husband pointed straight at Milo and Zuri. Tell him, McKenna. Tell him why those kids aren't really yours. McKenna's world spun. Her knees almost buckled from the weight of the words. Milo and Zuri, she whispered, pulling them closer. Go into the closet. Don't come out unless I call you. But her ex-husband sneered. They're not going anywhere. This is family business. Eden stepped forward. They are children, not property. You don't talk to them, or her, like that. Her ex glared at Eden with a twisted smile. You really think you're the hero here, rich boy? You don't know anything about her. McKenna shook her head, tears spilling. Please, don't do this. Don't drag them into it. Oh no, he hissed. You dragged them into it when you stole them from me. Eden froze. Stole? McKenna whispered. He's lying. Her ex laughed cruelly. Am I? Tell him the truth, McKenna. Tell him how we ended up with 2 kids that weren't even ours. McKenna squeezed her children like she could shield them from words themselves. Eden frowned. What is he talking about? McKenna wiped her trembling hands on her skirt, breath shaking. Milo and Zuri weren't born from me, she whispered, voice cracking. They're not biologically mine. Eden blinked. Not yours? McKenna took a deep breath, pain pouring out of her. I was a caregiver long before I worked in your mansion. I worked with children whose parents abandoned them. Milo and Zuri's mother was a patient I cared for. She was dying, alone, terrified. Her ex snarled, and she dumped her problems into your lap. McKenna ignored him. She begged me not to let them end up in the system. She said I was the only person they trusted. Eden swallowed hard. McKenna continued, voice shaking. I didn't steal them. Their mother entrusted them to me with her last breath. She had no one else. She chose me. Her ex scoffed. And then she trapped me with them, forced me into being their father. McKenna shook her head, tears flowing. You hated them. You resented them. You blamed them for everything that went wrong in our marriage. Eden glared at the ex. So you abandoned them? He pointed at McKenna with venom. I abandoned her. Those kids were never mine, and they're not hers. McKenna looked at Eden, heartbreaking. But they're mine in every way that matters. I raised them. I fed them. I protected them. I loved them. Love isn't always blood. Sometimes it's sacrifice. If that matters to you, let this story reach someone who needs to hear it." Her ex stepped closer, smirking. "But you have no legal claim. And now that I finally tracked you down, I'm taking them." Makina gasped. Eden stepped between them, voice cold and lethal. "You're not taking anyone," her ex smirked. "You willing to fight for kids that aren't even hers? To raise someone else's mistake?" Makina cried. "They're not mistakes. They're blessings." Eden's voice dropped. "I'd raise them even if they weren't connected to either of you." Her ex blinked. "What?" Eden reached down slowly and took Makina's shaking hand. "Because I already love them," Makina sobbed. But her ex-husband's face twisted with rage. "You think you can take my family? Think again." He lunged. Jonathan stepped in front of him, holding something in his hand that made everyone freeze. Jonathan Hale stood at the bottom of the staircase, holding something small but powerful in his hand. A court document, a thick folder of legal papers. Makina's ex stopped mid-lunge, confused. "What's that supposed to be?" Jonathan smirked. "Proof that she owes you nothing." Eden frowned. "You... what?" Jonathan lifted the folder with a sharp flick. "This arrived weeks ago. I didn't bother telling you because I didn't want to encourage this little emotional circus." Eden stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "What is it?" Jonathan opened the document. "It's a legal report from Makina's former city. Turns out her ex-husband," he pointed at the man, "lost parental rights years ago." Makina gasped. "What?" Jonathan nodded coldly. "You didn't know because the courts never delivered the paperwork. They sent it to your old address." Her ex went pale. Jonathan continued. "You were deemed unfit due to violence, multiple police reports, and a psychiatric evaluation that clearly states you are a danger to minors." Eden's eyes widened. Makina covered her mouth in shock. Her ex-husband stepped back. "That's a lie. That's a damn lie." Jonathan lifted another sheet. "It also says the children were placed under protective guardianship of the closest responsible adult." He smiled coldly at Makina. "Which would be... you." Makina's knees buckled. Eden caught her before she fell. "Milo and Zuri are legally yours," Jonathan said. "Congratulations." Makina sobbed with relief. Her ex roared, "Give me the documents!" He lunged for Jonathan, but Jonathan stepped aside and added, "Oh, and one more thing, your warrant." The man froze. Eden blinked. "What?" Jonathan pulled out a final sheet. "An active arrest warrant, for violating a restraining order, and for stalking." Makina gasped. Her ex's face turned white. Jonathan tilted his head with a smug grin. "So if you touch her, or those kids, you go to jail tonight." The mansion fell silent. Her ex-husband's breathing shook with rage. Eden stepped forward, voice low. "You need to leave." "See," her ex glared at Makina. "This isn't over." He turned toward the door, but paused. "And you," he pointed at Eden, "you think she'll love you? Wait until you find out what she really did." Makina's breath caught. Eden glared. "What else is he talking about?" Her ex smirked. "Ask her why she left the hospital job in the first place." Makina froze. Eden turned to her slowly. "Makina, why did you leave?" Makina closed her eyes. She knew this moment would come. She just never imagined it would hurt this much. Her ex-husband smirked, enjoying every second. "Go on," he taunted. "Tell him what you did. Tell him why the hospital fired you." Eden's jaw clenched. "Makina, whatever it is, just tell me." Her voice trembled. "I wasn't fired. I left because I broke the rules." He blinked. "What rules?" Makina took a shaky breath. "The night your mother died. I wasn't supposed to be in her ward. Only senior nurses were allowed. Only high-clearance staff. Her voice cracked. But she begged me not to leave. She said she couldn't breathe alone. Eden stepped closer. So you stayed? McKenna nodded. Yes, for hours. I held her hand. I talked to her. I comforted her. Her ex hissed. She ignored her responsibilities, neglected her duties. McKenna shook her head fiercely. No, I did everything I could. But when the nurse supervisor found out I entered a restricted room without permission, she threatened to report me. She said my presence could put the hospital at risk. Eden swallowed. So, you left because of a punishment? McKenna's eyes filled again. No. I left because I refused to apologize for helping a dying woman. They wanted me to sign a statement saying I acted out of selfishness instead of compassion. Eden's breath caught. McKenna whispered, Your mother wasn't just another patient to me. She reminded me of my own mother. I couldn't leave her alone. I couldn't. Her ex laughed, and she threw away her entire career for a stranger. Pathetic. McKenna cried harder. I didn't know she was your mother. I didn't know that night would change everything. Eden held her face gently. McKenna, you sacrificed your job for her? McKenna nodded, falling apart. I would do it again. Eden pulled her into his arms. Her ex snarled. You think he's going to stay with you after knowing all this? That you're jobless, broken, too old, with kids that aren't even yours? McKenna winced. Eden turned slowly. You're wrong. He took McKenna's hand. I still love her. Her ex's face contorted with rage. He reached inside his jacket. McKenna screamed. Eden shielded her, but instead of a weapon, her ex pulled out a photograph and threw it at Eden's feet. Ask her about this. Eden frowned, then picked up the photo. His eyes widened. McKenna's breath vanished. Eden whispered, McKenna, why are you holding me in this picture? The room went silent. Time froze. Eden stared at the photograph in his hand. It showed a blurry picture of a young hospital caregiver, McKenna at 22, kneeling beside a little boy outside the back entrance of the hospital. A boy crying into her jacket. A boy with familiar eyes. Him. McKenna covered her mouth, tears spilling. I never meant for you to see that. Eden's voice shook violently. You kept this? A picture of us? All these years? McKenna sobbed. It wasn't supposed to be a secret. I carried it because that night broke my heart. I never forgot the look in your eyes. I wanted to remember you survived, that you grew up safe. Eden took a trembling step toward her. McKenna, why didn't you tell me sooner? She broke down completely. Because the world doesn't let women like me have stories like this. Because no one would believe a billionaire could love a woman who lost everything. Because I thought if you knew how connected we truly were, you'd feel obligated to me. Eden touched her cheek, voice breaking. I don't feel obligated. I feel found. McKenna sobbed harder. I'm too old, Eden. Too broken. Too tired. Eden shook his head. You're the woman who saved me twice. Once when I was a boy, and again when I became a man. Jonathan scoffed. This is madness. Eden ignored him and dropped to his knees in front of McKenna. Her ex shouted, Don't you dare! But Eden didn't look away from her as he whispered, You think you're too old? You think you're too broken? His hands trembled as he took her palms. McKenna, you're the only person who ever made me feel whole. McKenna cried harder. Milo and Zuri peeked from behind her skirt, eyes wide. Eden turned to them gently. If you'll have me, I want to be your family. McKenna sobbed into her hands. Her ex lunged. Jonathan grabbed him. Police sirens wailed outside. Officers burst through the door. But none of it mattered. Eden lifted his face to McKenna. Be mine, McKenna. Let me love you. Let me choose you. Let me protect this family. McKenna fell into his arms, crying. Yes, she whispered. Yes, Eden. I choose you too. The officers tackled her ex. Jonathan stepped back in shock, realizing he had lost his son forever. Eden held McKenna and her children close, and for the first time in years, he could breathe. Not every ending is happy, but every story deserves to be told. Share this if broken people deserve second chances. But just as McKenna thought the nightmare was over, an officer approached with a grave expression and said, "Ms. McKenna, we found something in his car, something addressed to you." McKenna's heart dropped. What is it?" The officer handed her a sealed envelope. McKenna tore it open and gasped. Inside was her birth certificate and a handwritten note. "If you made it this far, you felt something. Don't let that feeling die here. Pass it on." Eden looked over her shoulder. "What does it say?" McKenna's hands shook as she read the words aloud, voice breaking. "You were never meant to live an ordinary life." Some people wait their whole lives to be chosen. If this story moved you, someone else is waiting to feel the same. Will you share it?